Well, welcome to the 700 Club. We've got a governor who's going to tell us how he decries the politicization of the Boy Scouts, and more closely around at hand, the politicization of the Beijing Olympics, with growing calls for world leaders to skip the opening ceremony. Watch what's happening.
Well, many politicians say that would make a strong statement about China's human rights record. John Jessup has the story.
President Bush is just one of the leaders under growing pressure to skip the opening ceremonies in Beijing.
For the sake of your children, of our children, for the sake of the beautiful people of Tibet, don't go!
Already, British Prime Minister Gordon Brown and German Chancellor Angela Merkel have announced they will not attend. The European Union Parliament is also considering a resolution that would call for boycotting the opening. President Bush does plan to attend the Olympics, but the White House will not rule out the possibility that he will skip the opening ceremonies, something both Democratic presidential candidates are urging him to do. Meanwhile, Chinese officials said Thursday they broke up a plot by terrorists to kidnap athletes, journalists, and visitors at the Beijing Olympic Games. It's the latest black eye for what's supposed to be a celebration of sport, which in recent days has become a public spectacle. Unlike the clashes with protesters in London and Paris, the Olympic torch successfully made its way through San Francisco on an abbreviated but altered route, clad by armies of police and unprecedented security. The last-minute security changes upset a lot of people who waited hours to see the torch go by. Many never did.
I'm very disappointed, and I feel like I wasted my time to see protesters instead of the torch.
It's the only stop in North America, so I think it's kind of a disappointment.
China has been busy preparing for the Summer Games, trying to show its advancement into the modern world. But many are taking China's spot on the world stage as an opportunity to highlight its human rights record and, in particular, last month's clampdown on Tibet.
I'm Chinese and I'm American. I came here when I was 8, but now I'm an American citizen. But I've been to China, I've been to Tibet, and I love China, and I'm very proud of all the things that China are doing, but Tibet needs to be free.
Ironically, Tibet's exiled spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, who's traveling in the U.S. this week, says although he opposes China's violent suppression of free speech, he supports Beijing hosting the Summer Olympics and hopes to watch the Games. The question now is, who will be attending those opening ceremonies when the world is watching? John Jessup, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, John. You know, Terry and ladies and gentlemen, I'm just appalled at this. This isn't the time to make some political statement. Sports belongs to all the world. The Olympic is a worldwide celebration of the achievement of various athletes in various disciplines. It goes all the way back to Greece. And for these protesters to take this as an opportunity to slam China, it's just wrong.
But
and
Pat,
I think
it's not just the protesters. You know, now it's become a political thing really around the world, but especially here in the United States with both the Democratic candidates calling for a boycott. You love China. You've been to China so many times.
Yes.
And you've been so involved in political negotiations. How do you best form a positive relationship with China as a nation?
China, the changes over the last 20 years have been nothing short of fantastic. I first went over there in 1978 or 79, I forget which it was, and over these past few decades, it has just been astounding what's happening. The openings of China, the market economy that is taking place in that country, it is astounding. And the way to deal with China is to continue to encourage them to enter into the free market of the world. And all these protests is going to do, if China is hurt and if they're snubbed, and what they're going to do is become more insular. And we've got to keep in mind, those people do have long-range missiles that can reach the United States and hurt us. And if the Army gets precedence over there, then the next thing you know, somebody with an itchy finger might obliterate San Francisco. It won't be just a protest march. It'll be the end of the city. I just think we need to have negotiation, and every time I've been there, it's warmer and warmer and warmer and more friendly because you respect the people. They're very proud people.
So how do you respond to people who say, what about the human rights issues? What about Tibet? How do you address that in a positive way?
The way you address it is in private. You don't air your grievances public, and I urge the President of the United States to go forward with, as he planned, attend the Olympics, show our support of China, and welcome them into the family of nations. That's what's got to be done, because, I mean, after all, they have one of the oldest and proudest civilizations in all the earth, and I think to treat them like some second-rate stepchild is just not the way to do it. I'm just appalled at this. We're not going to accomplish one thing. The Chinese will get their backs up and they'll increase repression rather than the other way around. But I think quiet negotiations, quiet diplomacy, and more than anything, opening for markets, for interchange, for business, for cultural relations, for students, for all those things, it's made an enormous difference over these past decades, and we shouldn't lose sight of that. Well, Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN newsroom. Lee?
Pat, this has been a rough week for American Airlines and its passengers. It canceled 900 more flights today to conduct safety inspections. It's the third day of disruptions, and it's leaving customers on a wing and a prayer to get home.
It's your fault. It's American Airlines' fault, not the FAA. Your fault. I know you can't answer. I don't know what to tell you. You're a ticket agent.
Thousands of passengers are having the same problem.
Our luggage is captive, so we can't even change clothes.
And from Los Angeles